Have you ever noticed that on the days you're the most overwhelmed, your kids seem to be the most overwhelmed as well? Maybe it's one of those mornings where everyone wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. You're trying to get breakfast made. Someone can't find their shoes. Another child is crying because they wanted a different cup. And before you've even left the house, the whole family is feeling stressed. Most of us assume our kids are simply reacting to what's happening around them. What if they're actually responding to something much deeper? One of the biggest misconceptions I see is that children learn regulation from what we tell them. We remind them to take deep breaths, use their words, calm their bodies. Those are all good things to teach. But here's what I think is even more important. Children don't learn regulation from what we tell them. They learn regulation from the nervous systems they're connected to. When I first understood that, it completely changed the way I looked at caring for families. Long before your child ever copied your words, they were copying your nervous system. It's almost like the two of you have been dancing together since the day they were born. Without realizing it, they're matching your pace, your breathing, your emotional rhythm. That's not a parenting technique. That's just neuroscience. Your child's brain is constantly asking one simple question: am I safe? Surprisingly, it doesn't answer that question primarily by listening to your words. It answers it by paying attention to your physiology, your breathing, your muscle tension, your facial expressions, and even the tone of your voice become signals that help shape how the nervous system responds to the world around them. I want to be very clear here. This is important. This is not about blaming parents. Every one of us has stressful days. Every one of us loses our patience, myself included. This is about understanding biology. If you've been running on broken sleep, chronic stress, caffeine, and years of survival mode, your child isn't just watching that. Their nervous system is constantly learning from it. Once you understand that, you stop asking, what's wrong with my child? Instead, you start asking a much more powerful question. What is my child's nervous system learning from mine? That question reminds me of a mom and a little boy who started care in our office on the very same day. And their story completely changed the way I think about healing families. A while back, a mom came into our office with her young son. They both decided to start care on the very same day. They had very different reasons for being there, though. Mom was grieving the loss of a recent miscarriage. She was emotionally exhausted, physically drained, and felt like her body had been carrying more than it knew how to handle. Her son was dealing with developmental delays. He had poor core motor tone, was behind cognitively, and his parents knew he wasn't progressing the way they had hoped. At first, those seemed like two completely separate stories, but when we looked at them through the lens of the nervous system, they had something in common. Both of their bodies had been adapting to stress for a long time. Over the next several weeks, they both started care. When they came back for their first rescan, Mom couldn't wait to tell us what she'd been seeing at home. Her son had started crawling everywhere. He had essentially skipped crawling before, but now as if his brain had gone back and filled in a developmental chapter it had missed. She also noticed he was responding more quickly when she spoke to him and seemed much more engaged with the world around him. When we looked at their scans, we saw improvement in his nervous system. We also saw improvement in hers. That moment had stayed with me because it reminded me that families don't heal in isolation. They heal together. As parents, we all have our own neurological story. Maybe it's years of chronic stress, poor sleep, emotional loss, a difficult pregnancy, or simply trying to carry more than one was ever meant to carry. The nervous system adapts to all of it. That's one of the incredible things about it. The problem is that eventually those adaptations start to feel normal. You stop noticing how tense you are. You assume being exhausted is part of parenting. You begin to believe that living in survival mode is simply how life works. What if it doesn't have to? What if helping your child starts by helping the nervous systems they're connected to? So families are made up of connected nervous systems. How do we actually support that? At our office, that's one of the biggest reasons we encourage parents to have their own nervous systems evaluated, not just their child's. Because our goal has never been to chase symptoms. Our goal is to understand how well each person's nervous system is adapting to the stress they're carrying. That's why we use Neurological INSiGHT Scans. We'll look at things like heart rate variability, which helps us understand how adaptable your nervous system is. We also use thermal and surface EMG scans to evaluate how well the brain and body are communicating and whether your nervous system has become stuck in patterns of stress and compensation. Those scans don't tell us what's wrong with you. They help us understand how your nervous system is functioning so we can create a care plan that's specific for you. A parent's nervous system has different demands than a toddler's. A teenager's challenges are different from both. Every care plan reflects that. One of my favorite things is watching what happens as an entire family begins adapting better. Parents often tell us bedtime feels calmer. Mornings don't feel as chaotic. The child seems more resilient, and they realize they're more patient than they used to be. Those changes don't happen because someone suddenly became a perfect parent. They happen because healthy nervous systems respond to stress differently. I like to think back at that picture of dancing. When one person changes their rhythm, the dance begins to change. When both people begin moving differently, the entire relationship feels different. Your child doesn't need a perfect parent. They need a parent whose nervous system knows how to find its way back to regulation. And if you've been wondering whether caring for yourself is really part of helping your child, I encourage you to consider this. It might be one of the greatest gifts you can ever give them.